morning and welcome to Side Spot. Please forgive me for not giving you an announcement last Friday that there would not be a show due to unforeseen circumstances. I did not have a show on that day. And I say that, but not with regrets. On that day, I had actually gone up to Greater Prison in Pennsylvania to sit in on a fatherhood group with some of the fathers who are currently serving sentences in Greater State, Pennsylvania. Some of the fathers are lifers, and some of the fathers will be released at some point within the next few years. Whatever the sentencing is, they'll be coming home. And it was a breath of fresh air to go into this institution and just sit with these men who are still striving to improve, not just as fathers, but as individuals. And that was a great experience for me. It was a great experience to be invited by State Representative Ron Waters to come and see what I could offer in terms of helping the fathers make the transition back home, and for those who are not coming home, to help them make some adjustments and looking at what it is that they can continue to do as fathers to help the fathers who are in there, who will be coming home, and to also bridge the gap between themselves and family members outside of the institution. They have a lot of great, wonderful ideas, and I'm going to work very closely with the Lifers, Inc. in helping them to get their message out. Because this is important. Some of these men will never come home, and what they are trying to do and what it is that they want to do in connecting with other fathers who are still in the game, who are thinking about getting into the game, who have drugged their children into this lifestyle of madness. They're doing everything they possibly can to help. Letting these fathers know, hey, listen, this is just not the way. This is not what you want to do. It's not worth that. That our children deserve more. So some of the names escape me, but their faces, their conversations have stuck with me. And I'm going to do everything I possibly can to assist the brothers up at Greater State, Pennsylvania, State Prison, excuse me, and also State Representative Ronald Waters and his efforts. I'll tell you more about the FACT, F-A-C-T program that is going on out of State Representative Ron Waters' office over the next few weeks as I continue to learn more about its mission and its agenda. I don't want to give you misinformation, but just know that State Representative Ronald Waters has a dynamic program that he's trying to really build on at Greater State Prison. And in alignment with that, it's today's topic is parenting styles. And a lot of times I hear, more than I like to, mothers bash many fathers for lifestyles that they continue to live once having a child. When I talk about lifestyles, I'm talking about the drug game. I'm talking about hustling. I'm talking about selling drugs. I'm talking about using and abusing drugs and alcohol. I'm talking about the lifestyle that many mothers had benefited financially from, who now frown upon that lifestyle because they have a child by this person. And I understand, listen, I understand wholeheartedly If you have a child, you need to live a lifestyle contrary to that which you had lived before, because now you have a responsibility to a child. I got that part. But you knew that when you got involved. You knew when you, let's call it what it is, when you slept with that person, you knew that then. When you didn't use any level of protection to protect yourself from getting pregnant, you knew that then. When you didn't use any protection, when you had sex with that woman, you knew then that you could get her pregnant. You knew that. So both parties were aware. Both parties were aware. But when you make a conscious decision to get involved with a person, knowing what their lifestyle is, and you do the things that you do to bring a child into the equation, you can't point fingers. You can't. You can't say, well, when I got pregnant and I told him he was supposed to get out of the game. Well, in a perfect world, that sounds real good. But if that has been his lifestyle, if that was my lifestyle, if that was the way I made my earnings, if that was how I took care of myself, if that was how I took care of you, what made you think that I was going to stop living that lifestyle? Think about it. That's how I earned my money. That's how I paid our bills. That's how we have what we have. And a lot of times, when we talk about education, being able to meet the criteria to apply for a job that's going to allow me to be able to take care of the family in the capacity that I have been, that's non-existent. I've met so many men coming out of these institutions who don't even have a high school diploma. Let's not even talk about the fact that I have a master's degree and looking for employment is tough for me. There are PhDs who are working in fast food restaurants simply because the job market is tough. Now here you have a person who has no marketable employment skills, right? Maybe has a high school diploma, but having a high school diploma may mean a whole lot of things. I got pushed through, I just made it, I had somebody else take tests for me, whatever the case was. But when you talk about literacy, when you talk about the ability to comprehend corporate America as it really is, when you talk about the ability to comprehend work ethic, that's difficult. As simple as it may be to many of us, it's difficult for a lot of these guys. Simply because they're street smart. Simply because they picked up things here and there throughout their lives on the streets and become learned in that capacity does not mean that they have the ability to immediately jump back into the mainstream of life and get into the flow like everyone else, having been removed from society for a period of time, having been removed mentally from society when living within the society because of a lifestyle, because of a different culture. There are a lot of deficits there that go unaddressed. So fatherhood in itself is very complex, even for fathers who haven't been incarcerated, for fathers who haven't had that experience of being abusers or users of drugs and alcohol. Now we add this complicatedness to the equation. When we talk about parenting styles, I'm going to parent one of two ways. I'm going to do or not do what my parents did or did not do for me as a child. Bottom line. So if my parents were ones who spoiled me rotten, who gave me everything, who did everything for me, who didn't teach me responsibility, who was there at my beck and call no matter what it is that I did, the likelihood of me doing that for my child is quite high. Now, some may beg to differ. Okay, let's ride with that. You may see at this point in your life that raising you in that capacity did not benefit you because you didn't learn responsibility. Because you learned to totally depend on your parents. I got that. You may also say that a child should always earn everything that they get. I got that too. So that means that you won't be the parent who will give your child any and everything that they want. Okay. You see my point here? It all depends on how you internalize that which happened between you and your parents during your upbringing. You may see things in life as you go along. Maybe not in yourself immediately, but in others who live a similar lifestyle and say, well, I got all the same things too. So how did you wind up going in that direction? And listening to that person's experience. So along the way, we pick and choose the information that we want to use as parents. And we put it into play. So a lot of times we're using our children as guinea pigs because we don't know. We don't know. We have no idea, but we have an idea in our mind about how we want our children's lives to be. We have an idea. And that's what it is, an idea. And it's the same way with our parents. Our parents had an idea of what kind of life they wanted us to have. And we made our own choices along the way. So nothing is guaranteed. Nothing is guaranteed. Just because you give the information, if the person doesn't internalize the information in the capacity of healthiness, then it's no telling where that information is going to go. No matter how much information you give to a person, the way they internalize it is based on how they see the world. It's based on how they see the world. And that's what we need to really understand when we talk about parenting styles. So regardless of who it is you choose as a partner to engage in sex with, unprotected sex with, and have a child by, you need to come to understand, accept, and learn their parenting style. Real simple. All the conflicts that I have seen happen in so many marriages, so many relationships where children were involved has to do with ongoing conflicts about child rearing. You should have had discussion about these things. And I did a segment on Blog Talk Radio when it was Daddy's Right Here Live. And you can go into the archives and listen to that segment on asking the right questions. And I'm going to do that segment again. But what has to happen is that there's supposed to be some dialogue. And years ago, in the 50s and the 60s, those kind of things happened. That there was dialogue between people, in many cases, about family, about education, about hopes, dreams, and aspirations, and where we were in alignment with one another. That doesn't happen today. The alignment that we find ourselves in today is usually a horizontal or vertical alignment. And that's usually we're having sex. We're engaged in sexual activity with one another before we even fully know one another. But it's not just that, it's the unprotected sex. If you have not had surgical procedures to interrupt that, to cease that, then the likelihood of somebody getting pregnant is high. We know that. So if we know that, why are we not taking precautions to do otherwise? If that's the lifestyle you want to live. If you want to live a single, free to mingle kind of lifestyle and engage in those kind of activities, then we need to take more responsibility. And I say we because I was guilty of that. You know, it's funny, my mother and I were having a discussion yesterday, and one of the things that I was looking at and talking to her was how I wasn't even thinking about fatherhood when having sex. I was having sex. I wasn't thinking about a child. I wasn't thinking about any of those things. So I'm not exempt from any of this that I'm telling you. Not exempt from any of this that I'm telling you. But now knowing the difference, knowing better, knowing that information and taking a look at my life, taking a look at what I did to the lives of others and having that kind of practice, I'm giving it to you and telling you to, hey, look, listen, look at what it is that you're doing. Look at what you're doing, please. There are too many children who are being abandoned. There are too many children in foster care. There are too many children dying. There are too many children running away. There are entirely too many children born into a circumstance that is unhealthy. Unhealthy. I had a discussion just this morning with my stepdaughter regarding her son, my grandson. And even though her mother and I are separated, I still call her my stepdaughter. She calls me Dad. Her son calls me Papa. But you know, she calls me this morning in such distress about the fact that her son is acting up again. It's getting worse. He's near ending school. He has one more year to do in school. He's selling drugs, according to what it is that she's saying. He's smoking marijuana. He's being very disrespectful towards her. His father's been in and out of prison all of his life. All of the father's life and all the child's life. That's all he goes, back and forth from prison, back and forth from prison. That's all he constantly does. He just came home a week ago and had some discussion with his son about his recent conduct. His son doesn't have any respect for him. His son doesn't have any respect for him because he's done absolutely nothing for him. He doesn't even make the effort to stay out of prison, to stay out of the lifestyle. No effort at all. In the years that I've known this young man, his father's been in and out of prison at least 4 times. No effort at all. No effort at all. And it's a difference. When you look at a father who makes no effort to do anything for his child, that's sad. Not knowing and asking for help is another aspect of that. Not knowing but exposing yourself to the idea of maybe I need to be doing something different. But if you're still stuck on the other parent, well, you're not going to get anywhere. And a lot of this has trickled down to his son, and his son despises him and wants to hear nothing he has to say. Nothing. So there's a lot of work that's going to have to be done in bridging the gap between the two of them. It's not impossible. It can be done. But first of all, the father has to be willing to make some changes. The father has to be willing to humble himself and to not be so arrogant, not to listen to others, especially his son. Because his son has some things to say to him. Like all of our children have something to say to us in regards to what they think about how we're parenting them. They have the right to their views. They have the right to express their views respectfully. Respectfully. But they have their right to express their views. And a lot of times we don't allow that to happen either. But in terms of parenting style, his style of parenting is probably much like that of his own father. That he's not a hands-on person. And I'm only making this assumption because that's all we can do in a lot of situations is make the assumption as to why a person parents in the way they do. But we make the assumption, and in making assumptions that means we should be coming to understand that person's style of parenting. Understanding. And we need to learn why it is that they parent that way. And we can't learn that unless we ask them questions. Not attack them, not degrade them, not belittle them, but to ask them why is it you think this is okay? Did your father, did your mother teach you this? Did you learn that from your guardian? Why do you think that this is an effective method of parenting? And we have to accept it. We don't have to accept that style of parenting. We have to accept that this is how this person parents, and in accepting that, we don't make the person feel bad about who they are and why they parent that way. But we help them along the way and show them by demonstrating our own successful way of parenting a child and allowing them to kind of see the evidence for themselves. Because arguing back and forth, screaming and howling at each other is not going to bring about any change. None. Raising a child takes compromise and agreement. It's not your way or my way. It doesn't work that way. Because a child lives with you doesn't give you carte blanche to do anything you want. You're both the parents. You both have the right to sit down with one another and have a discussion about the child. Not about your failed relationship. If you want to have a discussion about that, you have a civil discussion about that. But that should have nothing whatsoever to do with raising the child. So there are 4 parenting styles that I'm going to attempt to cover today. The first one is authoritarian parenting. Excuse me. Now, this is an all or nothing style of parenting. I don't want to hear what you have to say. You're the child. You need to stay in a child's place. Do as I say, not as I do. There's no room for independence for the child because it's all directed by me, the parent. Authoritarian. Failure to follow such rules usually results in punishment. In punishment. Now remember, we had the discussion a couple of weeks ago about punishment versus discipline. This didn't say results in discipline. It results in punishment. Because in order for me to get you to understand who the parent is, I have to show you. That means I take things from you. That means I beat you. That means I verbally attack you. Because you're going to know who the parent is. So if you're that type of parent, if that's the style of parenting that you're using, I'll do the Dr. Phil on you. So tell me how that's working for you. Tell me how successful you're being with that style of parenting. And is that child afraid of you? Have you instilled fear? If that's the case, well, you're not teaching your child anything other than to fear you. And when they walk out of your line of vision, they're going to do the very behaviors that you're punishing them not to do. They're going to do them. They're going to do them elsewhere. Because all you've demonstrated is that I need not do these in front of you. Because you're the big bad monster. You're the boogeyman, and you're going to hurt me if I do them in front of you. You haven't taught me anything but fear. If asked to explain, the parent might simply reply, because I said so. These parents have high demands, but are not responsive to their children. They have high demands, but are not responsive to their children. That's not good. And if you look at some of the behaviors that many of our youth display in public, the aggression that they display in public, that's probably the residue of that kind of living environment. So when you keep saying what's wrong with these kids, what's wrong with these kids, what's wrong with these kids, you want to look at that behavior as well. because you have placed a label on the kid and you act that way towards them whenever you see them, be it yours or be it those of others. When you see things on television regarding that type of behavior, you place a label on them. They're getting that from somewhere, and 95% of the time they're getting it from their parents. Their parents. That's where it's coming from. That other percentage is coming from guardians, be it family members, relatives, and foster care environments. So we need to look at ourselves when we start talking about what's wrong with those kids. The second parenting style is the authoritative parent. Like authoritarian, those with an authoritative parenting style establish rules and guidelines that their children are expected to follow. They establish rules. Now, when you talk about establishing rules, listen to what it's saying. And mind you, one's authoritarian, there's no set of rules other than mine, and the other is authoritative, which says that we're going to establish rules. And if you listen to establish, that means that there was some action in there that involved others. Okay, so you got up this morning and you left out for school, but you didn't put the trash out like I asked you to. Why? Why? You're looking for an answer. You're looking to find out about the thinking that was going on this morning. Is this a pattern of thinking? Is this an idea that I have that I don't have to because maybe my siblings should be doing it, or maybe you can do it too because you walk right out the door every day and walk right past it? You're learning the thinking patterns of the child. Okay. Once hearing whatever it is, having some dialogue about the thinking pattern, and going back to we're having this conversation because of what the child did not do. That's authoritarian. From now on, this is why we're going to do this. This is how it needs to happen. The other two styles are permissive and uninvolved, and due to time constraints, we're not going to be able to cover those today. But take a look at those two styles that I mentioned and ask yourself, are you an authoritarian parent
60 seconds.
or authoritative parent? It's a more democratic way of parenting when you're authoritative. That means you're making room for independence. This was a very fast 30 minutes, and again, it's up to you. I want to expand this show at some point in time to back to the 90 minutes, back to the 2-hour show. But your support is needed. You've been listening to SciSpot. Glad to have you here. I drank my coffee before today's show. I hope you stay warm, stay dry, and stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. And once again, God bless. Peace.
10 seconds.